Hi there, it's Christy,
And this is Dan.
and we're from Embrace the Crazy, where we talk about life, daily life, and our struggles, our ups and downs, our challenges, our great life, and we talk about how we embrace the crazy of having 4 kids and a dog. So today we're going to talk about how our business started. So I've entitled this one, "Do you need any help with the business and other stupid questions to ask your partner?" Because that's how I came to be working in Dan's business. So, and it's been a journey. It's been a journey of self-discovery and a journey of where we want to be. So we're going to talk about how our business started, how I came to be in the business, and how it's going, and what's going to happen in the future, and what our plans are. So the first part, how the business started, I think I'm going to turn over to Dan, because it's his little baby, and he might tell us a little bit about how it got started and what your thought process was behind starting your own business.
Yeah, and I think I'll also talk about how we came to that decision together, because it is an important decision that you make as a family when you start a business. It's much more involved and much more work than you could ever imagine. And so being both on the same page is really critical to making it successful and making it work. So I recall very clearly, and this was about food, of course, but we sat together at Hall, just outside Canberra, and we discussed the opportunity, and we discussed a bit of a change way of working. And that's where the business spawned from. It was an idea that we had for some time, or that I had for some time, and a dream that I've really wanted to own my own destiny and, live our own dream and really control things and manage things how we wanted to. And most importantly, do things how we wanted to. Big organizations are great, and I've learnt and been fortunate enough to be in many very, very good ones. But it's always shaped by a culture and people that's not shaped only by yourself. And I really wanted to have that control and that ability to be able to do that. So we sat together and we talked about what's the opportunity, what's the upside, what's the downside. And I was fortunate to have a lot of good people around me to help advise and guide me and provide me the right confidence to be able to do it. But at the end of the day, that really came down to Christy working together and saying, yes, I back you, let's go and do this. And if things don't work out, well, we'll keep doing what we did previously and build on that. So that's probably where it started. And that was probably the most, that was a really exciting first step. And then you get into the work, and then you get into the building and the growing and the failures and the learnings and all the challenges that come along with it.
Now, I think you're talking about our business in QX in the way it stands today. I think we started the business a little while before then, right? We had the business that was just tracking with you, just working in it, and it was a kind of just a portal for you to be paid, really. And so, but I think what you're talking about is taking that next step and developing that business into something that you wanted to do, rather than it just being something for you to be paid into, and just a mechanism, really. Would that be right? You're talking about how it's expanded over the last couple of years, rather than when we started it.
Yeah, I think most businesses will go through steps, and I think ours did too. And it started small, and arguably is and is still small, but it has grown and expanded and changed lots. And I think that's probably the point that you're making, and it really did change a lot. At the start it was about me making a change for us and our family, and then since then it's grown, and it's involved you, it's involved many other people as well, and involves many other people right now. So I think that's the fortunate evolution of the business that we've built up and that we're part of. And there's still much more to go. I mean, we're still at a very, very starting point, and still learning heaps. But yes, you're right. It started as one, and then we've grown from there.
Yes, but I think it's always good, and I think Dan always had a vision in his mind about what he wanted it to look like, who he wanted involved in the business, who he wanted to engage with. And I think having that goal and that dream to be able to work out where it is you wanted this business to go, that also really helped. And that goes back to our discussion about planning and having those goal setting sessions. And we had one for the business, didn't we? We had a huge goal planning, a planning session for the business when we decided to take this leap. You decided to take this leap and how it was going to look. And I remember downstairs in our gym, there was huge post-it notes all over the wall that were just covered with Dan. It was like being inside Dan's head. It was quite terrifying because it was just words everywhere, and all of his ideas were just blurted out on all these huge post-it notes. And it gave me a really good insight into what goes on in Dan's head, and explained quite a few things for me. But I think that was looking at that every day, and you going down there and looking at that every day really probably helped you cement your ideas about how you wanted to proceed. And I think for myself, being down there every day, I actually saw how you saw what was going to unfold, or what your plan was, which was actually quite helpful for me, because you weren't so good at telling me what was on your mind or and you kind of kept the business and me kind of separate for a little while. And that allowed me to see what was going on inside your head, which was actually quite helpful for me. And it gave me a bit of insight into, okay, this is going to be a huge conversation that we're going to have. And I kind of had that little glimpse to start with.
Yeah, and I think that's such a great insight around sharing what your vision is and where you're going. And it's very hard. I think one of the things about starting a business is, you've got to start a business to either make money or deliver an outcome, but that might not be the real outcome that you want to get to. And so there's a number of steps to get there. And it's often really hard to articulate that and communicate that, firstly with yourself, and usually you've got a bit of an idea, a bit of a vision of where you think where you think things want to go, but the ability to be able to then share that with someone that you love, or someone that's close to you, is even harder again. And not only that, like with a business, you're really putting yourself out there, and you put yourself out there in so many different ways. And I think one of the things that I was always a bit nervous about is I always back myself and I'm confident, and most people know that about me. But this is, not using all the networks and people around you and things like, you're really putting yourself out there and making yourself really visible. And then importantly, in front of your partner, you're really saying, do you have what you take? You've said a lot, you're very confident, but can you actually deliver on it? And, I think that's such a thing that plagues on your mind at the start. But then once you start to do it, that becomes such a background component. And yes, it's still part of my DNA and who I am. But now I think, well, if that doesn't work out, I'll find another way, or I'll try something else and I'll do something different. I think you really have to build up your confidence and your resilience when running and operating a business, because things don't work, and everything's hard. Everything is hard, and you're on your own. You're not in a big organization where people have jobs that do things that you never even knew existed, but they're really important businesses. Now you need to know about them. So yeah, I think a huge evolution and a huge learning, and a real character building in yourself, in confidence, learning, and evolving and growing.
And I remember actually going back to Sydney and going for one of your friends' somethings, and we went to a party, and we saw one of your mates from school, and we were talking to him about it, and he was like, oh, be ready for the pain. And we were like, what do you mean? It's just starting a business. But it's the things that are hidden that you don't actually know about until you start the business. Even just starting a business, all the paperwork, all the finances, all the tax obligations, all the insurances, the things that go on in the background that aren't actually to do with the business, but they're so integral in actually running the business. And Dan has said it to me many times, and said it in front of people, that if we didn't work on that together, so I originally stepped in and I was running all the accounts and doing all of that, and doing all that behind the scenes work, whereas Dan was the face of the business. And he said to me, if he didn't have me doing that, it would have your business probably wouldn't have been very successful, because being able to do all that front end stuff and manage the back end stuff is really, really hard. That invoicing, that paying, all those kinds of things. It's so time intensive. And if you want to actually spend some time working on your business, when you have to be doing all that stuff for the business, it's really overwhelming, isn't it? And I think that's why it's really good that, or from the get-go, I put up my hand and I said, I'm happy to do anything. But then we got to a point where I could see that you were quite stressed when, we started making a few changes. And then I asked the stupid question, are you sure there's nothing you don't want, nothing else you want me to do, or do you need any other help with the business? And I think that was a pivotal point in our business and in our relationship.
Without a doubt, like, we've had a lot of good people around us and still do, and those people have changed over time. But there's, some people that have always been around and helped us, and, been part of this growth trajectory we've been on. At the same time, I think that milestone in our business was, without a doubt, the most important one. And for many instances, I think many reasons, I think the first reason for me was it really opened up your understanding of what we're working on, what we're doing, what I'm about, and where I want to go.
Yes, definitely.
Which you never had before. I've never talked about work. With Christy, I'd talk a little bit about the day. Maybe I'd talk about some little challenges, and then particularly when I was late, like multiple times a week, I'd talk about why. But in real sense, I didn't talk about really what I was doing, where I was going, what my goals were, what I wanted to achieve. And with a business, you have to do that, because that's just part of running a business. That's part of how you plan and how you deliver. And so having you involved, you saw that and you see that, and you now know what it's about, which is a real eye-opener for me in terms of how important it is to talk about your work. And, the day-to-day is important, but more importantly, to talk about, so where are you going? What do you want to do? What do you aspire to? How are you going to get there? Who's going to help you get there? How can I help you get there? For me, that partnership that we opened up from a business perspective allowed all of those things to naturally occur. And for someone who's not a good communicator, that opened it up immediately without me having to try, because it was necessary for work.
Yes.
And when things are necessary for work, I always get them done. And in this case, it was, which sounds crazy. And it sounds like, because it was work, I did it, and it wasn't out of love or anything like that. But it's not about those things. It's sometimes about how much capacity you have, how much I think you need to know and not know.
Yeah.
Do you really care and not, and all of those things. Whereas now that was to the side, because it wasn't about us as a husband and wife. It was actually about us working together and making that succeed, which then helped, obviously, from a husband and wife partnership as well.
Definitely. And it's very interesting, because when I tell people that I work we work in a family business and that we both work in it, lots of people do say to me, oh my gosh, I don't think I'd be able to do that with my husband. That would just be really annoying. Whereas we do very different things, obviously, but I actually quite enjoy it. I actually quite enjoy looking behind the curtain of Dan's work and seeing what actually the mechanism of what happens inside Dan's work and inside Dan's mind. And I've actually really appreciated getting that inside of you, completely different to what I have been doing, obviously. So it's that really interesting one of so many people saying to us, oh gosh, I don't know how you do it. That would be awful. I'd hate to work with my partner. But I think it's been good for us.
Yeah, and I mean, the beauty of business is that it's so variable. It's not like we're stepping over toes and doing the same things. We divide and conquer. And so we're kind of working towards a collective. We've always worked towards a collective outside business and inside business. So that's easy for us, because that just happens naturally. But the fact that we can divide and conquer and focus on different things allows us to work to our strengths and help each other be stronger. And I think a couple of things stood out to me with the benefits of it. I think your partner is more truthful than anyone that you know. And that's really great from a personal perspective. But when you mix it with business, it's even more valuable because you rarely get this in business. There's not many people that will really, really, really tell you straight up what they think and how you're doing and where you can improve or where you let yourself down. And a partner will do that. And a partner has the ability to be able to crack through that lens that you normally need to put on with work. And I know we all say that we don't, but you really do, and you really do guide it. Whereas the partnership that we have allows us to be able to do that. And sometimes it's not nice, but it's actually really helpful. And I know it's helped me grow a lot. I think I've grown a huge amount thanks to you being by my side from a work perspective. And I think 5 years ago, I never would have thought that. I never would have thought that was part of who we were and what we were and where we were going. But, I think the beauty of learning and growing and having good people around to point you in the right directions and open your eyes up to things allows you to see things in a different way and take advantage of things that you've got in front of you that you don't even know about. And I think that was a big thing for me, is that it took me a realization of someone to advise us to say, hey, what about this, to actually open it up to be much more than just someone who looks at the accounts or helps out with finances or something like that. It's much bigger than that. And, I see that as a force. I really do. I think that's such a valuable force that we still haven't tapped to its full potential yet. And we will. But yeah, I think there's such a huge opportunity for us that we're able to successfully do that, where lots of people can't do it.
No, that's right. I feel like what you're saying there, Dan, is that you thought I had no value add to your business.
Not at all. It's more the realization and awareness. I think we talk a lot about awareness, and this is such a great example where sometimes you just don't even think like that. It's not even what's the potential or not, or what's the capability or not. It's just, how would that even happen? How would that even work? And that's exactly how I thought. I thought that you were so busy with home and consumed with that. There's no way, I would never ever put that on you. But then I was opened up to the ideas of, well, that will create lots of benefits for us, lots of benefits for you. It will create a pathway for you to transition into work while still being at home and still being able to do the right things. So the benefits there for us have been enormous, really enormous.
And I think having that transparency between what's going on business-wise has been really helpful for me too, in terms of, okay, this is what Dan's thinking, this is where we want to go with our business, and being able to communicate about it. Because I wonder if other people run their businesses and it's, if they have a business and it's just one partner running it. And I know that I felt like I was being left out. I have total FOMO about everything. But I felt like Dan was not hiding something from me, but there was part of what he was doing. He spends a lot of time working that I wasn't able to be a part of that. And I didn't like that. But it also allows me to see him in a professional capacity, which it gives you another layer of your partner, which is really quite nice to see how he works and how he engages with people, particularly in meetings. I really love him. He's just, gets to the point. He, sweeps aside anything that's not necessary. He stays on track. And I know that that's what he's like, but it gives you another layer of your partner that maybe you're not aware of, which has been really, really nice. It's been really nice for me.
Absolutely. And I think not very nice for both of us. I think probably one of the things that stood out to me most was, and you're going to think this comes back to what you were just talking about before, whether I doubted you or something like that, but I've seen you grow enormously in ways that I didn't know about. And I'm sure I would have seen those at a point in time anyway. You've got lots of other aspirations and exciting opportunities ahead, which fully supportive of, and can't wait to see those come together. But there was lots of things that I just didn't see you doing. I look at some examples where you go to work events, not with me, you just go to them and you represent the organization and you represent our people and you engage with people and things like that, where, as a mother raising young kids 3 or 4 years ago, that was the least of the priorities and the least of the expectations. And now you've transformed into being able to do that. And I think that comes back a lot to our confidence and being able to share that confidence between each other and help each other, because, I know I pushed you, and sometimes that sounds like selfish because it's for my interest, but I think it's for our interest. But I look at what that's done to you and helped you grow and allowed you to position yourself now to be able to do other things. The value in it is incredible, and it's not due to me. I'm not trying to say that. It's more the opportunity that's ahead, and for people to be able to take them and make them their own.
And I think, Dan, as you're right, 3, 4, 5, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to see myself working in your business or in any kind of business, because I was so caught up in being just a mum. And now when people ask me what I do, I don't say I'm just a mum. I say that I run a business with my husband. And I don't think I would ever have said that, even when I started working in the business. But now I'm quite confident in saying, oh yeah, my husband and I run a business, and that's a great thing. And then I also say, and then I also have 4 kids, so I'm, there's a lot going on, so I still include my motherhood as part of my job description, but I always put that we run a business as my number one explanation, because I feel like I am part of the business now, which is correct. Yeah,
absolutely, like a critical part, and a hugely valuable part for me, and a hugely valuable part for our team. And not only that, I think what it provides a platform for is, is this the thing you're most passionate about and love and going to do for the next 20 or 30 years? It's not. And we know that, and we've planned for that, but it's created a platform for you now to be able to say, well, I know what that is, and all of these skills are now help me be able to get to that next step.
Yeah. So that kind of segues into how's it going, our last little bit. So yeah, it's not a forever solution. And I think I've come to that realization this year. And for those of you who've spoken to me recently, this year was going to be my gap year. This year was going to be the year where I was going to find out who I was, what I wanted to be, when I grow up, and have that space to just think about me and think about where I wanted to be. Now, it was the beginning of last year that I did ask that question, and I did dive headfirst into the world of Dan's business. However, I've now come to the realization that I do this isn't what I want to do. It's been a great platform for me to start, but it's not what I want to do forever. But I know that, and I will still continue doing what I'm doing, but also following my own passion. So, and it's also been a huge lifesaver, I think, for Dan, in terms of being able to put his time to thinking about his business and me working in the business, so that I can pick up the slack or pick up the pieces and do things that Dan shouldn't have to put his mind to, in terms of managing the business on a day-to-day level.
Absolutely. And I think, it's hard to think about the next steps and how will we juggle the next part. I think that's something you think about a lot, is, so I don't even know how I'm doing it today. How would I do the next thing, or how would we grow the next thing? And I think that's probably a challenge we face daily. And, I think I'm very bad at this, because I'll say to Christy, there's another opportunity that we're going to go for, and it's over here. Of which Christy will say, well, either that didn't work last time, or how are you going to be able to do that, or whatever many other reasons are. But I think that's how you grow and how you build, and, how you explore what's ahead for you. And there are lots of exciting things out there that are really hard and challenging, and that will be really difficult, but you really got to go and test yourself and see whether they are something that will happen. Lots of them don't. And I think that's probably something that we've seen a lot in our business and our working partnership together, is more often than not, things don't work, or they're much harder than what you expected, and you need to really work at it or change it up to make it work. and that goes for people as well. I think both people and, visions and ideas, they are much harder to bring to the world, particularly when you're small. When you're big, you've got the ability to scale, you've got people to bring to it, you can throw anything at it. When you're small, you can't do that. So you have to pick and choose, and also try lots of things and be okay with taking some risks. And that really is at the cornerstone of businesses. There is risk, and you've got to be okay with living on that side of risk. You can manage it really well, and I think that's probably important with small businesses, to really think about those risks and how best you manage them, and then also have a huge amount of resilience to be able to shift and change as you need to, because the world changes, people you work with change, and many others as well. I wanted to go back to a nice example that I thought of, you and I, Christy, when we were talking about the business and our work, and it's just left my mind. So I'm going to have to jump back to you, and it'll come back to me in a minute as you keep talking.
But in terms of the growth and development over the last few years, particularly from my side, I think mine's probably been more obvious, and in terms of my confidence and my ability to understand where I want to be and who I want to be when I grow up. I think that's come with having to put myself out there, and as you said, going to the work events and engaging with people, and that's something that I really enjoy. But in a room full of suits, it's quite intimidating, and it's particularly because that wasn't my world, and it never has been. I only go to a room full of suits when I go to things with Dan. Going into a room like that can be very overwhelming, very challenging. And I think that's pushed me outside my comfort zone. And I don't really like being outside my comfort zone. However, with Dan, he loves it. And so he's, gives me a bit of confidence, gives me a bit of push, gives me a bit of edge to go and try something different. And that's given me a huge amount of confidence and a huge amount of the understanding from Dan, and the fallback that if something happens, I'll just be able to go, hey, Dan, had a bit of a problem, and I know that we'll work it out together. And having my back and him having that ability to go, it's going to be okay, you're amazing, you're going to be able to do this, really helps. So having my back has been instrumental in my leaps and bounds forward in terms of my growth. And I recently did a women in leadership course, which really helped as well. It really helped define my focus and really helped define my vision and what I wanted to do and what I want to do going forward. So I think, but that's my growth and development. But for you also, that growth and development that you've achieved over the last few years, you're an amazing person anyway, everyone loves you. But in terms of your business acumen and your networks and things like that, and being able to jump on ideas, I think that's been a big growth for you.
Without a doubt.
And you probably have other things that you probably can identify.
Oh, a huge amount, a huge amount. I don't even know where to start. I feel like we could do another whole program on that and dive into that. I remember my story, and I think it relates nicely to what we're talking about. I've said for a long while that eventually I want to be a prime minister one day. Now, that's probably a joke, and there's probably many other things that'll come in front of that.
People actually tell you to do that as well. So
yes. So let's see what happens in life, and maybe this video will get picked up one day and replayed in the way that I probably won't or will want. But I remember always thinking I would not have Christy at the front of it, like you see with a lot of other politicians, because they're always sort of such a sellout, and all they're trying to do is show another side of them because they're so boring. But I've thought so much more about it, and my experiences over the last few years of working together would be that what a shame it would be not to do that. Like, we're a force, and we're actually much more powerful together, and we can add so much more value as a partnership versus one. So, would you be voting for one person, or are you actually voting for a team? And I think Christy and I are the team. And so, I know it sounds so stupid when you talk about the prime ministership, but you look at how in America they do it, where, the first lady has such a key role. And I always thought that makes no sense. I don't really get it. Like, it just does, they're always doing these, what seem to be second fiddle type jobs. But I now look at it as it's actually so critical because it talks about everything that you are. And when you're in jobs like that, or when you run a business and you're working with people, it is so much about that. It's so much more than just, buying a product or buying a service. You're actually buying, you're buying into someone and you're buying into something. And that really is what we are about. And back to that prime minister analogy, I would actually have you front and center, and maybe you'll be the prime minister and I'll be the first lady, which I'd be very happy with. That would be amazing for me. And I feel like our business may have many tops and tails ahead, and hopefully transforms. And you're maybe the centerpiece, and I'm the supporter one day. Probably not working on the finances though, because that would be very diabolical. But I think that partnership for me, and working together and really being open and sharing is what success is all about. And whether that means success financially, or customer wise, or whatever that success is, really the success that I'm actually talking about is us, becoming stronger and really working better in all senses, in our lives together, but in our work together. And when you bring those together, you really become so strong. And I talk about that force a lot, because I think we are a force and we can be a force. And I think that's what partnerships are about. And that's where you want to be. Well, that's certainly where we want to be. And I think it then projects really strongly onto our family, our friends, and everyone else around us.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's very poignant, Daniel. So I think, rounding out, I think that our partnership has worked because we're open, we're transparent, we're communicating. And I think in business and in our personal lives as well. And I think having both of those different relationships, and we often sit down and say, okay, we're having a business meeting. We snap into, okay, we're having a business meeting. But then other times, we sit down and talk about family life, and so we have a very we do talk about the business a lot. So, but we can switch into, okay, this is a business meeting. We have to have this really big discussion about what we're going to do. This new opportunity, something's happened and we need to talk about it. So I think having that communication, and I think in our sense, in our relationship, having that business relationship and that personal relationship has strengthened both. It's gone both ways.
Absolutely.
And in terms of where the business started all those years ago and how it's developed over the last few years, I think it's been a huge period of growth. We had that pivotal moment where, I put my hand up and I said, what do you want me to do? And Dan said, well, have I got something for you to do? And I think, lots of people would have gone, I don't want to do that. I can't do that. Whereas knowing that Dan had my back every step of the way, I had that little bit of confidence to go, okay, I'm willing to give it a go. And here we are almost 24 months later, and I'm still there. I'm still clinging on. Maybe it's 18 months, clinging on. And I've started thinking about what I want to do, and even how we can change our business to suit our lives.
Absolutely.
So thanks for tuning in. Vote 1, Dan and Christy, on the next electoral ballot. And hopefully we'll see. I'll keep the feedback coming, and we'll see you next time.
Have a great one, everyone. See you all.